Hello, world. We are here to
What's
celebrate
up?
Christmas and to teach you about Christmas, the holiday. Yeah.
We're here to tell you about Crimbus and
Why
where
we
it comes
bring.
from and why Christmas is Christmas and who Christmas is Christmas and why do Christmases.
We got this
So yeah,
holiday that everyone celebrates, and we all have our own different meanings for it. But we do a lot of wonky stuff, and nobody really knows why. Why do we bring a tree inside? Why do we hang stockings up? Why does this elf come down our chimney and drop presents under the tree for the children? I didn't know
why
for
does
a long time
why
until I
does
did
I
some
kiss
research.
moms?
Yeah, yeah,
But before we get into that, Charlie, it's been a while.
yeah.
How have you been?
I have been
What's
okay,
going
man.
on in Charlie Land?
I have moved to South Carolina, so that's why we're doing this virtual stream now, which is pretty sick. I'm in
Yeah,
a new
so Charlie's
house.
gonna look a lot better than I am.
Yeah, we got to get him a better webcam, but we're working on it. With your donations, we will get this man a working webcam. Uh, but yeah, I've been chilling, dude. I've been chilling. I'm in the new office. We just did our secret stream yesterday, which is pretty cool. We might do a couple more of those where we just do a pop up random stream, maybe once a month or whatever. We
Yeah.
talked a little bit about drones. That was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun for everyone that was hanging out with us yesterday for our test stream. Yeah, we talked about the drones that are attacking New Jersey. That still
Yeah.
nobody really knows what's going on with them. That's fun. I've been dealing with that for a while. You left just in time. They're probably looking for you, Charlie.
They're probably looking for me. I leave, and then all of a sudden there's drones flying. It literally started right when I left. But
So yeah, let's get into it. So let's start with some of the original Christmas traditions, where it really started. Do you wanna get us started here?
yeah, so before we dive into other holidays that are kind of similar to Christmas in time frame and tradition, let's dive into Christmas, I guess, right? So we all know Christmas, the Christian holiday, is about celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ, right? And it wasn't actually celebrated until the 4th century because before that, really Easter was the big deal. They didn't really pay much attention to birthdays or anything like that. But around the 4th century is when they started really diving into Christmas and celebrating that idea of Jesus being born. Yeah, it wasn't always a thing. And when they originally celebrated it, it didn't have all of the attributes that it has today.
Right.
They didn't have our similar style of Santa Claus getting carried around by reindeer or fancy decorations on the tree. A lot of this stuff kind of adapted over time with a little bit of influence from some other things. Sometimes it was more of just a little bit of Scandinavian folklore. Sometimes it was a little bit of mixing traditions from holidays like Yuletide and what's the Saturnalia is the other
Saturnalia, yeah.
Saturnalia, which is another birthday holiday. Yeah, it was actually a Roman holiday, so it kind of makes sense that Roman Empire kind of adapted a lot of traditions from Saturnalia to go into it. But that's kind of when Christmas started, 4th century. What do you got, AJ?
Right. All right, so let's dive into let's start with Yule. That's like the first Christmas holiday, the first winter
Yeah.
holiday where it all kind of began. So Yule is celebrated from, if you're taking the Roman calendar, from December 21st to January 1st. It's celebrated over the course of the solstice, and it's the sun is now returning after the longest night of the year. The winter season is ending, and we're coming into the summer season, the light season. So it's celebrated with fires and candles because it's returning the light, as well as you would decorate a log with evergreen boughs and candles and everything for the first day, and then that log would then be burned on the night of the solstice, and log was continually burned until it finally burned completely out.
Yep.
And feasting and gift giving were a popular custom to celebrate this time of year because it was a way of celebrating that we survived the dark half of the year, the darkness, the
Yeah.
winter, and now the sun is coming home. So a lot of the traditions that we see in modern Christmas of gift giving, the feast, lighting candles around the house, all that, some of that is thought to come from Yule and Yuletide season, as well as all of the evergreen imagery, the
Yeah.
wreaths and garland and things like that we see. Not the Christmas tree, but the branches of the Christmas tree. And I'll get into the Christmas tree later. You got to wait to the end.
He's got a rant for this. He's got a huge rant for this, and we'll talk about it. But basically, it was the evergreen was a big thing for them because this was more of a nature holiday, right? And Yuletide, so that's why they were having like all these greenery things like the wreaths, and they would decorate trees outside with different symbols, or like sometimes they like carve like little like statues of gods into the trees.
Yep.
But it was a holiday that was more about nature, and one of the biggest parts of it was like kind of like this ambiance thing. So it was a lot of like warm and cozy and like vibes they would put on. They'd light a lot of candles, have a lot of fires. It was about family coming together a lot. And you got to think this is a time period where the winters would kill people. So
yes, this is a celebration.
So this might be your last hurrah with grandma or grandpa, but it was and that's how it was celebrated. It was kind of like a coming together of the family, and that kind of like last cozy warmth hurrah before the deadness of winter.
it was the leaving of the Holly King, which is like the winter god, and the return of the Oak King, which is the summer god, bringing back abundance and life. So that's where Yule started, and that's where a lot of that. And then moving into the next origin holiday, we have Saturnalia.
Yes.
So this one is a Roman holiday, and this was celebrated. It was a week-long holiday celebrated from December 17th to December 23rd. And this is a holiday celebrating the god Saturn, which is the god of time.
Yep.
And this was essentially a week-long Mardi Gras party where everyone and their mother would celebrate. They would let slaves go free for the entire week. They were treated as equals. There were no slaves. Everyone took care of everyone. They would elect a mad king, essentially, that would preside over the celebration, and anything they said goes. So if the king was like, all right, we're all going to party naked, everyone got naked. And it would be like, all right, we're all going to eat raw cow meat. Everyone would just do it. Like, you just did it, and that's what it was. It was just absolute debauchery. And in this one, gift giving and feasting were also common practice because you just wanted to show your love and your devotion and your enjoyment of like life. That's what this was. This was just like, we made it another year. So this was almost like a mixture of like modern, like where some modern Christmas tropes come from, and also in a way some of like what we do for New Year's Eve, our big celebration of the year end, like that also kind of comes hand in hand with Saturnalia.
It's the big thing that they have in common pretty much. It's that not only was it a big spiritual holiday, but it was it's a time to come together and kind of like forget differences and get over it and hang out for a week, So
you become best buddies with your slaves.
And it's funny because a lot of these holidays, like Halloween and Christmas, are they pop up in hard times in the year. So it's either the end of Halloween was coming. There was almost like a celebration of death of everything, right? And then,
that was the beginning of the dark season.
Yeah, and then these Christmas, so like Saturnalia and Yule, it's all like the end. We've made it through like the bulk of the destruction. Yeah. So we're gonna. It's kind of like a little feast that we're gonna have.
So then, moving on to the next Christmas, I guess, origin holiday, Mithra's birthday. So Mithra is a Persian god, and he was a sun god that actually developed a cult following in the Roman army after they started conquering parts of Persia. They were hearing about Mithra, and they were like, "Yo, this is something I can get behind, right?"
Yeah.
So then, as the army created this giant cult of Mithra, it slowly like spread, and Mithra almost became a Roman deity as well. And most Romans did worship or at least acknowledge Mithra as another sun god with Apollo and everyone else. So his birthday is actually said to be on December 25th. So there is a theory that Christians may have adopted December 25th as Jesus' birthday for Christmas as a way to integrate and absorb the Mithra cult into Christianity because they're already celebrating the birth of a god on this day. Now they just have to essentially reskin it and say, well, yeah, you just have the wrong name for the god because Jesus was born that day. So that's there's not really anything special holiday wise going on with Mithra's birthday. It just happens to be that date, and it does coincide with Christmas's date and the integration that Christianity did do with a lot of pagan cultures.
Yeah. But cool. You want to dive into Christmas now? We'll talk a little bit about why is Christmas celebrated on December 25th? Let's start there.
So I got a big one about that.
Yeah.
So let's go. So the birth of Jesus was not actually, like Charlie said, celebrated until the 4th century.
Yep.
The only thing they cared about for the longest time was Easter. It was his rebirth that mattered the most.
Yeah.
And then in the 4th century, they decided that actually it was Pope Julius I chose December 25th as his birth date that they would celebrate, and it's thought that was a way to absorb Yule, Saturnalia, and Mithraism into Christianity because you already have these 3 pagan holidays happening, and if they just say, keep doing that, but for us, it's a lot easier to convince somebody just to change what they're partying for than tell them to stop partying. So there's actually so I'm going to backtrack a little bit. There's some historical evidence and written continuity in the Bible that suggests that Jesus was actually born in the spring. But it just worked out better for the Christians to say, nah, he's born in the winter. We're going to make it work with all your holidays.
Yeah.
It's their usual way of just kind of taking things and making it their own in a shitty way.
So I heard another theory about it, because the hard thing about these whys for these Christian holidays, not a lot of it was written down on why we're doing it this way. I mean, we got a pretty good idea for Halloween, right? Which because that was like oddly specific, that they just kind of moved the dates to overlap Samhain and stuff.
Yep.
But for Christmas, there's a little bit of evidence that they think that maybe they're celebrating the conception of Jesus in December, which
they're celebrating the sexy time.
Yeah, well, it was immaculate conception, so there was no sexy time.
When Mary masturbated.
Yeah, okay, but
welcome to the blasphemy stream.
Yeah, so
blasphemy files.
Yeah. No, there's a little bit of evidence, like biblical evidence, but then again, the problem with the biblical evidence there is that none of the dates. There's not really a strong dating system in the Bible, so a lot of it's
there's no dating.
Yeah,
really.
And most of it's based off of speculation, and a lot of just I think this happened in this time frame, but they are pretty sure that whenever Jesus was born, it was not during the winter, based off of scenery. So that's an interesting fact. But we celebrated on December 25th anyways. And, our most widely accepted answer is because, it overlaps these other holidays. And that was a big thing for Christianity at the time because there was all these other religions in the area, and it was kind of like, hey, we can still party on this day. We can still celebrate on this day, Yep,
and, exactly.
And they do,
and because of that,
blended traditions a little bit.
Yeah, they blended tradition, and they just kind of told them that now, like, you're celebrating for Jesus now, but they didn't tell them how to celebrate. They straight up were just like, the church was pretty much just like, what you guys are doing, keep doing it, but now it's in the name of Jesus. So have fun. And so that's why a lot of the pagan tradition stuck around. They still, even though it was celebrating a Christian holiday, they kept the pagan like revelry and debauchery that came with holidays. So one of the big things that started actually when they decided to take over the pagan holidays, and this is where we'll get into Adrian. This is where we'll get into Adrian's comment. People started caroling because what they would do is this was now a time that the church kind of poked at this, but this is when the rich would start to give back to the poor. So a lot of the poorer people as we saw with a lot of other, like with a lot of the Halloween holidays, would go caroling. They'd go to different richer homes, and they would sing songs and do dances and all these silly things out on the porch for gifts and for food and all these things. And if they were not given these gifts or these food, they would actually terrorize these homes. They would vandalize them or steal things or be a nuisance. And it's almost like Samhain all over again, where it's like, give me candy or I'll throw a brick at your house. And this also might have been a start or part of the legend that comes with like the good people get presents and the bad people get coal, because that's you're going to get something if you're nice, and if you're naughty or you're not good to these people, you get shit in return.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good description on that. What do you know about hanging stockings over the fireplace? Where does that come from?
This is all your expertise here, Charlie, because
Okay.
I forgot.
So there's basically a story here, right, where a wealthy widower had 3 daughters and couldn't afford their dowries. So Saint Nicholas secretly dropped bags of gold down the chimney into their stockings while they were drying in the fireplace. So basically, people used to hang their stockings and socks and clothes above the fireplace during the winter months, right, so that they would be able to dry easier, as rarely as they would do laundry.
Right.
And so they were hanging there anyways, but there was a story, I guess folklore, that got passed around, that Saint Nicholas would actually come and might give you gold, if you've been good this year in your stockings. So people started hanging stockings up during Christmas because Saint Nicholas actually became kind of a huge part of Christmas a little bit later on. So, which we'll dive into Santa a little bit later. Not quite
maybe
yet,
we'll
though.
see.
Yeah, not quite yet though. So children began hanging stockings in hope of receiving visits and presents from Santa, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, let's dive into what do you know about elves, AJ?
This is going to be another one for you because
All right, perfect. That's fine.
I got so wrapped up in my Christmas trees that I forgot to think of anything else.
That's all right. We'll go over your Christmas trees in a second. All right. So the earliest link for elves, right? It's from Scandinavia, right? So it's Scandinavian folklore, where they talk about Nisse or Tomte, which is small mischievous creatures that were similar to elves in descriptive wise.
Right.
And they were associated with the winter season, and they were also associated with giving gifts. So since, basically that was just Scandinavian folklore blending in with this winter holiday. So people were like, oh, the elves are going to come. And now it's a Christmas tradition. So Christmas is like a sponge. It just has absolved everything around it and just kind of made it into this like spiritual melting pot of tradition and holiday, which I actually think is most holidays now. Most Christian holidays now are kind of like that, but I actually think it's kind of cool because whether you know it or not, you're still doing these traditions from nearly 1,000, 2,000 years ago. People were doing the same things that you're doing now in your house.
Yep.
Whether you know that it's a tradition from that long ago or not, it's actually pretty cool that we're still celebrating these funny ways,
It's true.
And most of us do it without even knowing why we do it. It's just the fact that we used to do it as we were kids. Yeah, the way we've always done it, And so we'll hang stockings up.
It's become almost, it's essentially like Christmas on its own is almost a secular holiday at this point, where it's not even religious anymore. There's so many other symbols and things that go along with it, like nutcrackers and fairies and even now the modern Santa Claus is not even a religious icon anymore. It's just a thing.
And it's been so like sponge like that. It's even just taken aspects from like tradition or like from Christmas movies or Christmas poems or Christmas stories, and have just made it into part of the holiday. So literally, you could make up some random stuff about Christmas, and then a couple years later it'll be a Christmas tradition.
It's
like,
true.
Many people watch Die Hard every year on Christmas just because they consider it a Christmas. We'll dive into whether or not that's a Christmas movie later. But
But I do want to reel back because we got a good comment here. Where did the toy making elves come in play? Because, like you said, it's a Scandinavian myth, but like,
Yeah.
were they little craftsmen in the woods?
Well, so the idea was the elves, the Scandinavian elves at least, or the Nise or Tornte or Tomte, they're small, like mischievous creatures, but they would also give gifts to people. So
Okay.
I don't know if that just turned into them making presents and making toys for children, but originally they were just, gift givers in general. Like they would bring people, food or, small gifts during the Scandinavian winters. They were just a winter creature that would do that, so.
It sounds like it's with most other things that came along with Christmas. It was something over here like this, and then it rolled its way through Christmas stories and tales and silly things, and suddenly now they're little the little guys clad in green that make toys and cookies and trees.
And that eventually turned into Santa being an elf-like figure too. So
right,
right, which is pretty
pompous
cool.
birth of the elves.
Yeah,
nice. Okay.
Sweet.
What else
Actually,
you got for me, Charlie?
think the first idea of Santa being an elf is actually from the poem "Twas the Night Before Christmas," or "A Visit from Saint Nicholas," also known as. But that's where the first idea of, first considering Santa to be an elf, which is pretty cool.
This magical creature,
somewhat
instead
modern.
of a saint.
Yeah. But all right,
interesting.
Yeah, and then reindeer.
Right.
What do you know about reindeer?
Hit me with it, Charlie.
All right, perfect. I'll keep going, man. I'll keep going. So reindeer have always been looked at as this animal that just survives the elements because they're extreme cold weather deer. And so when people were thinking of like what would be escorting Santa through like the harshest elements on the planet, reindeer was like the first idea in everyone's thought or everyone's brain. So when people started making like Christmas stories about Santa Claus, the modern Santa Claus that goes around in a sled in the snow and delivers presents, reindeer was just one of the first animals that came to people's mind. So it really doesn't have much cultural significance besides the fact that they're just crazy animals. So
it makes sense. And I mean, the only other thing I can think of that would make sense as a hardy winter animal would be like a moose.
Yeah.
And I don't know. This is just my own ignorance. I don't know if moose live in like Scandinavia.
Yeah,
I know that reindeer do.
Yeah.
But I don't know if moose is a Northern American thing or if that's everywhere, or maybe they just like the way reindeer look better. I mean, reindeer are kind of cooler.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like a sled pulled by moose has a lot less of a neat symbolism to it or imagery. All these moose pulling a sleigh. I feel like Santa would be like 3 times his size if he had a chariot pulled by moose.
Yeah. All right, so do you want to start your Christmas tree rant now?
We're going to start talking about Christmas trees.
Okay.
Here we go. All right, so Christmas trees. You have all been lied to. They are not a pagan symbol. They are not this thing where we're bringing life into the house and taking care of it and keeping it alive. Christmas trees are a wholly Christian idea. They started in the 16th century by Lutherans. They started cutting evergreens down and putting them up in Lutheran churches and adorning them with candles and bulbs and all these other things to symbolize Jesus and life and all that other kind of stuff. Because evergreens, even absent of paganism, were always a Hebrew symbol of eternal life.
Yeah.
So that's why they started cutting down trees and putting them in churches and doing Christmas trees with them. Now, the pagan connection. This is where it gets dicey. Ancient pagans, Scandinavians, the Gallics, the Gaelics, everyone would practice a lot of their religion in the forest. You would find a single tree standing in a clearing surrounded by more trees, and that would become a sacred grove. They would think that this is a sign from Odin, or this is a sign from Athena, or this is a sign of Freya, or any other of the old gods. That this is standing here now by itself, and this tree would become sacred, and you would have some kind of priest or cultist or zealot or whoever ran the religion in that area would go and like become a hermit and live near that tree and practice rites near that tree, and you would worship near that tree, and you would commit sacrifices on that tree, and all these wonderful things to appease and worship your gods. So when the Christians first started colonizing and taking over different pagan countries and different pagan states and all these things, sometimes they would just simply decorate these groves with Christian symbols. They would put candles or crosses or angels or anything else in the groves as a way to Christianize them. So they're already worshiping there. We might as well add God to their worship. Or sometimes they'd go as far as to cut those trees down and take them home as trophies. And that's the closest to the pagan Christmas tree because they would steal their trees. They would bring them inside and be like, "This is our trophy." They would put them in their churches, or they would bring them and put them in town squares because they were like, "Look at this! Look at what we got." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that coincides with if if a religious group worships a thing, right? If they're worshiping a tree, if they're worshiping eternal life, why would you cut it down and put it in your house as that religion? That makes no sense. So why would you think at any level it's a pagan tradition to cut down what you worship and put it in your living room? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that. It's ridiculous. It makes sense that they would take the fallen boughs and make wreaths. It would make sense that they would take pieces of the the needles and all these things and sprinkle them around the house. But why would you actively kill your essential altar? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
put it in your house. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. So that constant propagation that the reason we have a Christmas tree is it's an old pagan tradition and it's an old like absolutely not. There's no Yule tree. You burn a fallen log. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's not a pagan thing. And I'm 30 years of hearing it's a pagan thing makes me want to smack somebody. So that's my Christmas tree rant. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming to my TED Talk.
There are some connections in a sense between all these religions and why evergreens are such a universal symbol for life, because
Yeah, absolutely.
it's the only thing that you can really still see green in the middle of the snowy winter. So
Right.
it's
But
very
then you should leave it out there. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, no, that's the difference though, because these a lot of the older pagan religions, right, which is a large category of religions right there, most of them were nature focused. And so
Exactly.
which they were also nature focused because a lot of them were foraging focused too, because those northern regions of Europe did not have the best farming land, which is also why the
Right.
Vikings kind of became raiders in a sense,
Exactly.
because their land was almost unable to farm. So they would fish and forage, and they'd try to farm, and it wouldn't work. So they would go and take stuff, and that's where that came from. But the still, that's the sign of life. The evergreen tree was such a huge part of all these cultures, all throughout
Right.
the world.
Right.
So,
Right.
but yeah, no, definitely, indoor dead trees is not a good sign of life for pagan religions. So that makes a lot of
Exactly.
sense.
That's like how like Indians worship cows. So
Yeah,
taking that into consideration, the Indians worship cows. They consider them sacred. You
yeah,
wouldn't cut off a cow's head and mount it in your living room in respect to the
yeah.
cow. You know what I mean? Like, so why, if the tree is sacred, we're not gonna hang them in our living room either. We're gonna take the gifts that's given us by the fallen branches. And yes, I'm not saying that I haven't cut down pine trees and stuff to build their houses and stuff with, but like in the sacred time, you're not doing that. No, absolutely
Yeah. All right. Now the serious question: can I fight Christmas?
not. You totally cannot fight Christmas.
I could definitely fight Christmas.
Are we
First of
talking
all,
like Christmas decorations? Are we talking like the spiritual embodiment of Christmas? Are we talking about like fighting off Christmas, like holding the holiday back? Like what is the scope of this fight so that we can
all right.
properly weigh in?
There's a few things that I could do to fight Christmas, and I would need a little bit. I'm gonna acknowledge I would need a little bit of power and a little bit of help to fight Christmas, because the first thing I would need to do is cause an economic collapse, right? If no one can afford Christmas presents, right, the spirit of Christmas is going to die for a lot of families. I know we say it's about, coming together and being with family through the harsh winters. But in reality, a lot of these spoiled brats just want presents. So, economic collapse, your family doesn't get presents for you anymore. And we have no more Christmas there. Second thing I would do is I would cause mass hysteria with drones in New Jersey, because that works apparently. Fly a bunch of drones around so everybody's focused on drones instead of Christmas spirit. And yeah, no, I would. That's how I would take down Christmas. I would take down, and the only thing I would have to do after that is fight the final boss, Santa Claus. And I still need to think about that because he's got some powers. But I feel like
you have to fight every Santa from SantaCon.
Yeah, every Santa from SantaCon. I don't know. I feel like if I booby trapped a chimney, I think I'd be able to get it. You know?
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, economic collapse. I'm telling you, we gotta get rid of the Christmas spirit.
Oh my god.
Once there's no more Christmas spirit, I bet Santa's weak as hell.
Yeah, it's probably like the Tinkerbell rule. If you don't believe in him, he doesn't.
Or it's like an elf. Remember when there wasn't enough Christmas cheer? All the reindeer started falling out of the sky.
I've never seen Elf.
Oh, you've never seen Elf. I forget. Yeah, you're a terrible person. But in Elf, right, when there wasn't enough Christmas cheer, right, Santa's sleigh started going down because people just didn't believe anymore. And so he was about to crash into the Hudson River. But they all started Christmas caroling because the best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear. So, so yeah, they all started singing and saved the day. But if I destroy Christmas spirit, I destroy Santa. So I could definitely do it. I could take down Christmas. All right. Well, I think that's all I have for Christmas tonight.
Yeah?
Yeah. Do you got any fun
I
Christmas
think,
stuff you want to talk about?
I think we have to save... We're going to save some Christmas stuff for the future.
Yeah.
So, there are Christmas cryptids, believe it or not.
Yes.
And we're also going to rope in some Christmas symbolism into the future episodes. So we will do a Christmas episode on Santa Claus in the future.
Yeah.
And all of the iterations and where he comes from. So that's why we didn't really bring him up much in this episode. We talked a little bit about how he was an elf. But there will be a full-on Santa Claus episode in a year's time, maybe.
Maybe we'll do a Krampus episode? Can we do a Krampus episode?
We're definitely going to do a Krampus episode. We're going to do a... what's the name of it? What's the Italian Christmas lady's name? Of course, my mom just went to sleep, so she can't answer me. What the hell is her name?
Spaghetti Monster? Scientology?
No, not the Spaghetti Monster. I forget. There's an Italian Christmas lady. There's an actual cryptid that showed up on Christmas called the Dairy Fairy. So there's a bunch of things. So we're gonna probably drop maybe 2 Christmas episodes a year. We can drop one on Christmas Eve and one on Christmas Day as we go forward, because we're gonna start dabbling in the audio podcast world. So you'll be able to follow us on that and start listening to our specials there. So yeah, we'll do a Santa Claus episode and probably follow that up with a Krampus episode, and we'll talk about maybe we'll do a deep dive on just elves. Yeah, and where the toy making comes from. Maybe we'll do a deep dive on Rudolph and the reindeer of Santa Claus. Like we have a lot. We're not going around. We're not going anywhere for a long time.
We will be here.
Because holy shit, there's a lot to talk about between cryptids and holidays and all these other fun stuff. And the ghosts don't seem to go away either, so we're going to have plenty of that stuff too. So, yeah, stick around for more Christmas stuff. You got to stick around for at least a year.
Yeah, at least.
But,
you got to subscribe for at least a year. You know?
Yeah. But as we always say at the end of all these episodes, thanks for hanging around. Go follow us on TikTok while it still exists, where you can see clips of our streams, sometimes that are completely edited out, that you'll only catch in TikTok clips, as well as some clips from investigations. Go follow us on Instagram and on Facebook so that you can see when we post about our streaming schedule, as well as our paranormal side of everything with the investigations and everything that we do there. Thanks for hanging out.
See you soon, guys.
Peace out, guys.